Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Wednesday session at Namaste Village. Welcome to the Namaste experience. It is an experience that I know you know. Whether you know or not is a different question. But I know you know, because it's impossible for you to not know. It's impossible for you to not be who you've always been, as you will always remain. It's impossible. And yet, we've done a very good job at pretending that we've achieved the impossible, haven't we? We've done a very good job at imagining the unimaginable. But finally, we have come to the point of saying enough. Enough is enough. Today, Christ's vision is the only thing I will use, the vision of Christ consciousness. That's the lesson from A Course in Miracles. Christ is the vision I will use today. In other words, I choose to see everything as it really is. That's all that means. I choose to see reality, not illusions. And it's when we make a resolute decision to do just that, that we realize there is no other choice, because we're either seeing everything or we're seeing nothing. Why would you choose to see nothing when you realize that you've chosen that? But right in front of us, every moment, is the face of holiness itself. You could call that the face of Christ, the face of the Buddha, the face of Joe. I don't care. None of that matters. What we call it doesn't matter, but what we choose matters a great deal. So this morning, I want to do something that maybe we've never had quite so clear. I want to explain to you how creation works. Are you interested in that? Yeah, I mean, it's no big thing, right? How creation works. You may be wondering, how could he do such a thing in 25 minutes? Well, I'm going to do it in a lot less than 25 minutes, actually. I think we can get to the essence of how creation works in just a minute or two. Wouldn't that be great? We could just spend a minute or two together and understand resolutely, completely, how creation works with one or two simple examples. That would be time very well spent. Wouldn't you agree? And if we're going to be spending any time at all, we may as well spend it well. So here it goes. Are you ready? Bethel, do you believe it's possible for you to give birth to a dog? Could you give birth to a dog? No. Okay. Jeff, is it possible, even remotely, for you to give birth to a cat?
No way.
No. I think we'll all agree that such a thing would be impossible, right? We can only give birth to what we are. A human being can only give birth to a human being. A dog can only give birth to a dog. That's what we are. Now, let's extend that a little further to a divine understanding of how creation works. If it's true that you can only give birth to what you are, and if that's also true for, let's use the G word, God. If God can only give birth to or extend what it is it possible for God to extend what it is not? No. Just like it's not possible for you to give birth to a dog or to a cat or to anything else other than what you are. God can only extend or give birth to that which it is, holding the same essence, the same qualities, the same divinity that is in God. Okay, there you have it. That's the secret to creation right there. You can only give birth to what you know yourself to be, and God knows itself to be whole and holy and love. Therefore, God can only give birth or create or extend that. And you are that extension. You are that very being of love, of life, of holiness, of grace, you name it. Now, you can, if you want to, pretend to be a cat. There are people who pretend to be dogs. It's actually a big movement. Did you know that? It's a big movement of people who claim, I'm actually a dog. It's the identity issue. We've talked about this before. You know, it's funny how far we can take the identity issue. Now, as you know, my brother of, well, he's my older brother, so my entire life is now my older sister, has chosen to change identity, to identify as a woman. Wonderful. But the truth is, we can't really change how we were created, just as we cannot change the way that we were created by God. We can choose to identify or act in a certain way. That's great. And there are people who choose to identify as dogs or as wolves. I think they call them furries, or there's an actual term for this. But does that make them a dog? No. You can imagine yourself, likewise, to be less than whole. You can imagine yourself to be broken. You can imagine yourself to be sick, diseased. But does that make you so? If that is not in the mind of God. If sickness, disease, and death are not in the mind of God, I promise you they are not in your mind. You can pretend, you can act, you can even create the illusion of, but I promise you it is not true. That's the whole secret. What extends from the mind of God remains as it was created. You can do all you want to pretend to be something else, just as someone pretends to be a dog, or as a child can pretend to be many things as part of its childish imagination. But at no time does it change the holy, perfect child that each one of us is. So that being said, I want to read a couple of things that I think take this a little further. The first is going to be just a few sentences from lesson 167 in A Course in Miracles. And then we're going to listen to something that Joel wrote that I think will bring this home for you, because that's the whole idea. We want to bring this home. I don't want you just to sit here while we're doing this session or while you're sitting there at home and say, wow, okay, that was an interesting idea. And then go back to living the way you've always lived, pretending to be something that you are not, pretending to be weak, vulnerable, sick, pretending. I want you to leave here saying, I am the holy, perfect child of God, complete and healed and whole, shining in the reflection of God's love. In me is creation sanctified and guaranteed eternal life. Eternal life. That's the only thing to take from this session. So this is what Jesus says in this one very short section in lesson 167. Ideas remain united to their source. Ideas remain united to their source. They can extend all that their source contains, just as you can only extend only that which your source contains. Anything that is not contained within your source, guess what? Is not contained in you. But they cannot give birth to what was never given to them. You cannot give birth, create, or extend something that is not in you. And if something wasn't given to you in your creation, then it is not in you, except in your imagination. You see how it keeps coming back to imagination? You can imagine yourself to be whatever you imagine yourself to be, but that doesn't change who you really are. And here is the most important part. I bolded this. As they are made, so will be their making. As they were born, so will they then give birth. And where they come from, there will they return. You cannot give birth to anything other than what you are. No matter how much she desires or wants, Bethel will never give birth to a cat. Jeff will never give birth to a dog. And you will never give birth to anything other than what is whole, because that's how you were created. You can imagine a lot of things. You can try to change your identity or to put on a costume. But when an actor puts on a costume, it doesn't change who they are, does it? It's just a character that they play. And once again, as we've said many times, they can get really into the character. They can even, in getting so into the character, forget who it is that's playing the character. Just as you can forget that you are the holy, perfect child of God playing something different, but it doesn't change anything. So that being said, let's hear what Joel has to say. And in fact, this is one of the most beautiful paragraphs in the infinite way that Joel wrote. And I think it's going to bring it home for all of us. The wave is one with the ocean, indivisible and inseparable from the whole ocean. Once again, the wave is one with the ocean, indivisible and inseparable from the whole ocean. Imagine that. One tiny wave, indivisible and inseparable from all of it, the very depths of the ocean. All that the ocean is, the wave is, and all the power, all the energy, all the strength, all the life, and all the substance of the ocean are expressed in every wave. I actually counted, and in that one sentence, Joel used the word all 6 times. All. It's all there, all of it. You think he's trying to make a point? I think so. It's all in you. The wave has access to all that lies beneath it. The wave has access to all that lies beneath it, for the wave really is the ocean, just as the ocean really is the wave. This is amazing. Inseparable, indivisible, one. Do you realize what this is saying? I mean, really? This is telling you that it's impossible for you to be anything other than the divine. Just as a tiny little wave that crests over the surface of the water is no different than the very depths of that ocean, miles deep. It is the same, the essence. It has access to the whole thing, just as you have access to all of life. And you can choose whatever you want, though. That is the freedom of choice. But you can only choose to pretend. You can't choose to change. This is what they don't tell you. You can choose to pretend, but you can't choose to change. Note this very important point, Joel says. There is no place where one wave comes to an end and the next wave begins, so that the oneness of the wave with the ocean includes the oneness with every wave and every other wave. They're all one. As the wave is one with the ocean, so are you one with God. Your oneness with the universal life constitutes your oneness with every individual expression of that life. One more time. Your oneness with the universal life constitutes your oneness with every individual expression of that life. Therein lies your salvation. Your oneness with the divine consciousness constitutes your oneness with every idea of consciousness. It's so simple when you hear it put so simply. Now we just need to receive. Finally, you are one with God, with the universal consciousness. And you are one with every spiritual idea of which this consciousness is conscious. That is perhaps the most important sentence here. You are one with every spiritual idea of which this universal consciousness is conscious. You have no choice. I hate to tell you. You do have the choice to imagine, though. You do have the choice to pretend, but you do not have the choice to change the will of God. Herein lies your salvation, if you would but accept that. Now, why would you be coming to a place like Namaste Village or to a Zoom session like this? Anything. Why would you do it if you weren't ready for this? If you didn't realize, as the lesson says today, Christ's is the vision I will use today. That is my determination, my decision. It is the only choice I will make. Christ is the vision I will use today. So use it. It's pretty easy, really. Do you realize that seeing through the eyes of love is the easiest thing in the whole world? And it's the one thing that's going to bring you more joy than anything else in this universe? I mean, think about it. Or practice it. Try. Experiment. What you're going to find is that when you choose to see everyone in this way, just as expressed in the Course or through Joel or any other, they're all going to say the same thing. Any illumined being is going to say the same thing. Any sacred text is ultimately going to say the same thing. There's only one choice. One choice. To be as you were created. And just as Bethel cannot give birth to a cat and Jeff cannot give birth to a dog, neither can God create something that is not whole and wholly perfect. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And I hope you will do the same. So, Victoria, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, Brother James, that's great. This is the perfect setup for happiness. And just as you were able to explain all of creation in a minute, I think I have a way of explaining how to do it, how to apply it, how to live it in less than a minute too. Because the healing is not the healing of the forms that we look around at, the countryside and the earthquakes and the storms in our bodies. And the healing is simply the recognition of who we are, not what we've imagined ourselves to be. So the secret, and this is the simple secret that is no secret once we do it, the way Jesus says it in two ways in the Course. He says, all it takes is one unequivocal call for help. So I want to get out of the mess I think I'm in. What's an unequivocal call? It means no distractions, unequivocal, nothing else on my mind, nothing. Excuse me. And then later he says, so that's the first condition. It has to be an unequivocal call for the truth, for happiness, for beauty, any understanding we have of what truth, heaven, love, God is will do. Any unequivocal call for that. And the second part is, and it's intrinsic in the unequivocal call, is that we put all of our attention on it now. That's it. All of our attention. And that's what we fail to do because we have been so addicted to mind wandering into make believe. We've literally spent our time in time and space wandering into ideas of separation, time and space, bodies, all kinds of identities. So it's much easier to pretend you're a girl or a boy that's a girl than to give up the whole idea I'm not a body at all. Instead, what am I? An unequivocal call. That would be okay to say, all right, what is the truth? And it's always only right now. And that's why there are so many near death experiences where people who have been imagining their bodies come back to tell us that at a critical moment, they had an unequivocal call for help. And what they saw was their reality of spirit, light, and love. And coming back into a physical body was just a communication tool, nothing more. That's what anyone that you ever read will tell you that, or if some of us have had that experience. An unequivocal call, nothing else on my mind. Full attention on the kingdom is what brings the kingdom of Christ, of our being, into our awareness. And not only does it bring it into our awareness, when we put all our attention on the Christ in us, the light in us, the joy in us, the beauty in us, the part of us that is the only truth, that is like our creator, everything we need here in time, when we finally turn around and open our eyes, is brought to us under a different law, under the law of love and under the law of grace. And it's not that we're denied being here, but we're here through effortless grace rather than through all the figurings and all the efforting. And all it's asking for us, it's really that simple, but the consistency of it is our choice. Do I want to keep my attention, my full, or am I more entertained by visions of destruction, craziness? That's what we've been doing. So together, and just like in the morning, in your first morning prayer, to put a full attention on the presence and only that, no matter what we're looking at. And that's what we're getting good at, to look at things and recognize the light in them. It is this simple, if we can let it be this simple. So that's it, all our attention on an unequivocal call to be who we are. Thanks, Brother James. Thank you, everyone.
Wow. An unequivocal call for help. Once again, very simple, but are we ready to do that, to be unequivocal about that call? Only that one thing, rather than continuing to be entertained by all that the ego seems to show us. It doesn't really show us anything, because anything that is not true is not real and cannot truly be seen. However, we can be entertained by illusions just as we're entertained by flickering lights on a screen. I mean, we're entertained by movies, aren't we? All it really is the projection of light through a lens, through little pictures. But they're not real. We can make it seem like it's real. We can get into it emotionally and really, hate the bad guy and love the good person. But that doesn't make it real. But we're entertained. In one film, another film that I'm sure Vicky has never seen, Gladiator.
Probably not.
Probably not. In one big scene, this warrior is in the Colosseum after death all around him, and he screams to the audience, "Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?" That's what the ego is calling to us every moment. Like, look at this death all around you. Are you not entertained by it? What's wrong with you? You've been entertained by it until now. What changed? I'll tell you what changed. Everything changed. You chose not to be engaged by anything other than that. But it took that unequivocal call for help. We're only entertained now by reality. So here is the challenge. Scott Grace.
Yes, sir.
Are you ready for a challenge?
At your service.
This is going to be a good one.
Oh.
Here he comes. He's ready. I would love for you to see if you can make up a song using the words unequivocal call for help. Whoa. Oh, that's gonna be, and I
Let's see
know,
if I can rhyme unequivocal.
I know. Come on in, let's see.
Unequivocal.
I'm looking forward to this.
call for help. James is getting the knack of how to challenge me. Only one thing left to achieve, something closer than the breath I breathe. Only one thing left on my plate. Here and now I heed the call to let down all my pretending walls. Every breath another chance to say I'm asking you to help me out through the movie of fear and doubt. I'm no longer entertained by pain. It's an unequivocal call for help. Unequivocal call for help. It's only a choice to say no more help. It's an unequivocal call for help. Time to remember that all is well. Time to remember that only God can be God. There's only one thing left to do. Only one thing I want to see through. Only one. Only one. Boy, oh boy.
Okay, I can't wait to see what I come up with tomorrow to challenge him.
I better meditate for a while.
Oh, we are so blessed, aren't we? What a beautiful way to remember that I can only give birth to reality because reality gave birth to me. Only the real. That's the only deal. I'll stop there. I'll let Scott do all the rhyming, even though I'm rhyming twiming. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. So take this message and just drink it in today. And just remember, you are who you are. You can't change that. You are holy, you are perfect. You are the infinite space of love itself. There's nothing that we can do to alter the truth. All we need to do is to choose to see through the vision of Christ today, which is just the vision of love. Everything, no matter what. So namaste. Have a beautiful day, everyone. Love you.
I love you all. Thank you, James. Thank you, Scott. Thank you all.
Thank you.
See you
Blessings for a
tomorrow.
great
Thank
day.
you.
Love you
I
all.
love you all.